All right, let me share my screen. Okay, so looks like we have a light agenda for today. Let's just start with this. The Thomas put a comment in about um, the GitHub issue, adding E2E test for device manager. Um, do we have Claudia or Adelina on the call? He couldn't join this week, but he wanted to talk about this. Does anybody know what's the status here going on?
I think they just needed some guidance, and I think Adelina had mentioned that she's going to be reaching out to him and following up. I can also follow up too. I've done a little bit with the end-to-end tests too.
I see. Okay, cool. Okay, I guess then there is not much to discuss. We'll wait for Thomas for next week and probably can discuss that. The other one, I think Michael put here before he went on leave was this Unit 42 article that was brought up in the Slack channel. This Windows Server containers vulnerability, or they've talked about it. So I can give a quick update here, and then I'm happy to talk more about this. So basically, this article talks about what have been extensively published already, that the process-isolated containers in Windows should not be considered a security boundary. It's an OS isolation boundary. It is a silo, but it is not we do not consider it a security boundary. It's pretty similar to what Linux does, although in the implementation things are a little bit different. So in terms of that, this is a known issue. However, there was an additional issue which was causing the container escape. The issue was basically, it talks about it, the global symlink. So basically when in Windows we create a container namespace, we create what we call a global symlink. We may create those so that the host could talk to the container namespace. These global symlinks, basically, which are symbolic links, they could cause escape if you are within the container. So since we know those global symlinks should only be used by host to create the namespace and talk to the container, we're going to block, we block the access from the other way around. Like the container namespace, nobody should be able to talk to container host using those symlinks. So that fix has been in, and I think it's part of 10C update that's upcoming for Windows. So that was a little bit of an issue that we were aware of, but we were able to fix it recently. But besides that, again, the instance stays the same. The Argon are not considered, the process-isolated containers are not considered the security boundary. If you want a secure container, Hyper-V is the route to go. And with Containerd work that we've been doing, Hyper-V, we're hoping will soon become a reality. So that's the update there on the security issue. Any questions, concerns?
So you mentioned Hyper-V containers and Containerd. Can you just remind us kind of what the current status and the timeline is for that?
Yes.
Did we go beta for Containerd in 1.19? Do I remember that correctly?
No. So 1.19 is basically we went beta with Containerd, but the two things that are known and not to be working with 1.19, even we went with beta, are Hyper-V containers and GMSA. So those are the two things we want to get in 1.20 for it to go GA. So that's how at least Michael, and I are looking at it. James, Craig, feel free to chime in. But Peter, to your point, the Hyper-V isolation is like basically from a Containerd perspective is the next major milestone. The GMSA issue is known, is being backported from an OS layer. So the Hyper-V work is the only work that needs to be done on Containerd side, and if there is any work needed on the Kubernetes
side. From the testing side, I just dropped in the links for the Hyper-V. that we have running. We recently made a change to the pre-release package that made a lot of the tests pass. I think there was a issue with the way that folders were being mounted that's been added. The Windows volume mount check is a issue in Containerd for Hyper-V currently right now. What it does is it has there's 2 pods that get launched in this one, and the second pod should have different permissions than the first one, but the Hyper-V Containerd code is reading the permissions from the first pod, and so you should have a package fix for that pretty soon. And then the other one is the GMSA, which is a known bug that I think needs to be fixed in the platform, as far as I'm aware. There must.
Yeah, that's correct. And the timeline we're looking at is we've identified the bug that is in creating the container compartment, because the Containerd is using a different code path than Docker. So we've identified it. We are in the process of fixing and backporting it.
Yeah, thanks for the update, and thanks to everyone who's working on that.
Sure.
Hi, quick question about isolated containers not being considered a security boundary. So does that translate to Microsoft's stance of, or does that translate to Microsoft saying that if you want multi-tenancy or in a multi-tenant environment, do not use process isolation?
That is true. Hyper-V isolation is the answer there. That is correct. If you truly want a hostile multi-tenant environment, yes, that is true.
And that's the same on the Linux side as well.
Correct. Yeah, that's a very good point. That's the same. Yeah, that's exactly the same as Linux. And yeah, the process isolated containers are, as the name says, right? It's just the process is isolated. And there are many ways that that will continue to come up where escapes are possible for both Linux and Windows.
Yeah, but I don't think the statement is as strong as it is with Linux on the Windows side, at least from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure like on the Linux side, EKS, AKS, those are running with process isolated containers, right? For even in hostile environments, like in multi-tenant scenarios.
At least for the AKS side of things, we have docs that say you should not run hostile workloads in AKS because the process isolated is not. I'm not as familiar with EKS, but yeah, and I know there's actually some pretty big conversations around hostile workloads in Linux. I think Jess Frizzell had a really good article a year ago about why you shouldn't run multi-tenanted workloads on Kubernetes. And so I mean, if you want to, I can maybe see if I can dig up a couple of those links.
Yeah, that would be good if we can post some links there, James. Any other concerns there, or is there anything else that we want to talk about today? Deep, Arvind, do you have anything else?
Nothing much. There's been pretty good progress on the CSI proxy side. One of Kalia's major enhancements that brings in Go bindings into the CSI proxy layer is now merged. And so that I think is a pretty neat milestone for beta. So this allows the proxy to not always have to go through PowerShell commandlets, but straight up call Win32 ioctls directly.
Cool.
Yeah, and the only other update from our side is we've been working with Deep on that PR that we discussed last time to strip the unnecessary security context on Windows. So hopefully that should get in sometime this week.
Yeah, right. I'll take a look at the updates.
Yeah, thanks for all the help, Deep.
Sure thing.
Awesome. Okay. I guess let me just put for untrusted code, gvisor and GCP should be used. Okay, so thank you for that. I'm just gonna put it right here, links. And one last update is, I think we talked about it last time, about the backlog planning, the backlog review meeting bi-weekly that the group decided on, the community decided and voted on. And the time, I believe, is Thursday. I believe it's Thursday, 9:30 to 10. I will send out an invite this week. So it's starting next week. We'll have that on Thursday every 2 weeks. This is a good time, as you can see from the agenda point of view. Things are a little bit slow right now until 119 is officially released and we can start on 120. I wanted to use that time to kind of be a little more systematic for planning the 120 release. So kind of start with, during the backlog meeting, we want to go through the big items that are any enhancement, like we talked about Hyper-V. Is there any other thing we want to focus on as a community? And then what are the small items that accrue to those? And kind of put them in the backlog, clean it up a little bit. So I would highly encourage you, when I send out the invite, to please attend. I will send out reminders on Slack, and I will post the link to it on this meeting info right here as well. So everybody has the link. That will be something that probably will happen this week. That's the other update I have. If there is nothing else, happy to give 15 minutes back to everyone.
I'm looking forward to talking about what we can get in the 1.20.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. So Deep or Aravind or all the other folks, Victor, Jing, we are basically looking at, of course, making Containerd to the, taking the next level. So testing the GMSA Hyper-V. Is there anything on top of your mind for 120 that you wanna, you can think of right now?
Maybe we'll just add to the sheet or backlog.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, nothing off the top of my head. Our main focus is going to be getting onto Containerd.
Got it.
We're hoping, just like how we have Windows machines or Windows VM or Windows images with the Docker runtime pre-installed on most of these clouds, we're hoping there will be Containerd releases also.
Yes, and we are working with the Containerd community for those releases too, and happy to fill you in on those as well.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, that's all. Thank you, folks. Next meeting will also be run by me, and keep an eye for the bi-weekly backlog review meetings. Thanks for joining. Have a great week.
Bye all.
Yeah.